important to work with packaging when you want to improve sustainability, and how we work at Scania. Setting the right packaging is the base for creating efficient logistic flows, but very few people realize how important it actually is. But if you work with this in a clever way, you will reduce costs, you will improve quality, and you will improve sustainability. To succeed with that, you have to have a thorough understanding for the entire supply chain, but also an understanding for the life cycle of the packaging itself. But when we work with this in an efficient way, we can reduce the transport need for our inbound flows. We can improve the ergonomics for anyone working in our production. We increase the quality of the incoming parts by protecting them in a smart way. We optimize the stock levels. As you can hear, this has a very big impact. So at Scania we have chosen two different strategies for our packaging. One for our onshore flows, which is mainly inside Europe with relatively short transport distances. There we have chosen to have a setup with returnable packaging, which means that when the empty packaging leaves our production units, we send it to a breakdown unit where it is cleaned, collapsed, and bundled into distribution units. From there we send it to our packaging pools, from where our part suppliers can order packaging according to their needs, and it goes back into our factories. We can also send packaging out for washing and for repair, which prolongs the life length of our packaging. In our offshore flows, we have chosen to use one-way packaging, and the reason for that is that the return transport required to send back the packaging is not sustainable, neither from a cost perspective or from a CO2 perspective. So that's why we have chosen these two separate systems. And if Scania is going to succeed with reducing the CO2 emissions by 50%, then we have identified that we need to contribute by lowering the environmental footprint from our packaging system by 40%. And we will do this by focusing on 4 different areas. First, we have the impact from the packaging material that we buy. We have the impact from our transports, and in this case, we have both the empty packaging transports, meaning the return flows of our empty packaging, but also the packaging share of the inbound transport coming into our factories and to our service centers. We want to reduce the energy use in our facilities, and here we are not only focusing at our own Scania facilities, but we want to take a bigger responsibility and also put the same demand on the service providers that we use in our packaging network. And we want to reduce the impact from our end-of-life treatment or from our waste flows. So in order to reach these quite ambitious targets, we have started up and planned for quite a large number of initiatives and projects. And I want to highlight some of them. First of all, we implement mandatory sustainability calculations when developing new packaging. We want to decrease the share of packaging in our inbound transports, because that is basically waste. We want to use the transport for transporting parts, not for transporting packaging. And we can do that partly by increasing the fill rate inside our packaging, but also by reducing the weight of our packaging assortment. We want to increase the share of recycled plastics in our packaging to reduce the material use. We are currently at 8% recycled plastics, which I am not satisfied with. So we aim to go to 60% by year 2025, which is quite a big change in quite a short time. We also want to secure that we always use the best available end-of-life option for our packaging at the end of life. And again, we can take plastics as an example. We have quite a big environmental impact if we send it for incineration, even if we do it with energy recovery. If we instead go over to material recycling, then we will have a much lower impact. And maybe in some cases we can even connect these two, where we send our plastic packaging for material recycling and produce new packaging from it. And finally, but very important, we want to work with partners who are also passionate about improving sustainability. For example, the companies who help us develop and produce new packaging, or the companies taking care of our waste. We need their help to find potential, find solutions, and implement changes. And I will show you an example of how working with sustainability targets and calculations can help us make an actual difference. We have tried this out as a pilot in our engine assembly to start with, and we had a very good result, so we are now implementing it for all our factories. What we start to do is to look at something that we call transport index to identify the potential that we have in all of the parts coming into the factory. The transport index is, we look at the weight of the part, the volume, how much we buy each year, and how far distance we transport it. And when all these three factors are high, then we have a high transport index, and that shows us that within this selection of parts we can have a very big potential for improvement, both when it comes to cost, which is why we started this initially, but also connected to sustainability, if we do this in a smart way. So when we have identified the potential parts, we start looking at or developing an alternative packaging solution. And historically, we would have looked basically only at cost, of course quality and ergonomics as well. But what we have added on is this mandatory sustainability calculation that helps us make smart decisions. And we should always include sustainability in the business case, not only cost. Here you see an example. On the picture in the middle here, we have a spacer that is used to transport our flywheels. So we put the spacers in between the flywheels to be able to stack them on pallets.
Yes.
We saw that here we have a really high transport index. It's produced in Central Europe and sent to Sweden, but also to Brazil. So the packaging engineer at the engine assembly started looking at the new returnable spacer. With a lower weight, same material, we could fit 2 more parts inside the inbound pallet, and we could go from 32 spacers to 160 spacers in the empty packaging pallet. Seems like a quite good improvement. But then he also started looking at a one-way spacer, and from a sustainability perspective, this seems kind of counterintuitive. But he continued, and he saw that we could reduce the weight to 350 grams instead of 2,600 as we have today. We could go to recycled plastics. We could still increase the number of parts in the pallet with 2 pieces, but we could go from 32 to 300 pieces in one pallet of empty packaging. And on top of that, we could reduce the need to wash the spacers because we have very high cleanliness demands on these flows. But since we only use the packaging one time here, we can eliminate the washing. So before we introduce this sustainability calculations, we would have looked at the cost in the business case. And we see that when we come close to 3 years, or before we come to 3 years, then this new returnable solution would be the best option. And that would probably have been our choice. But in this case, when we look at the potential to reduce CO2 equivalents, from the returnable solution we reduce it by 42%. But from the one-way we reduce it by 69%. And this led us to a different decision and to go for the one-way packaging.
Yes, amazing.
Okay.